Well, hello and welcome, friends and colleagues. I am so happy to be on with you today as we examine the impact of the pandemic on some of our most vulnerable families, mothers and their children that have been victims of domestic violence and who, in order to escape their abusers, have sought refuge in emergency shelters or transitional housing. I am Lori Weinstein, CEO Emerita of JWI, and I am proud of the unwavering commitment of the organization to be a light, a voice, and a tireless advocate to end domestic and sexual violence. Our work has been grounded in programmatic initiatives, advocacy and policy reform, and philanthropic endeavors that are dedicated to giving back to women and children and the shelters and programs that serve them. Today's conversation springs from our hands-on work to provide a safe harbor and urgently needed resources to the youngest victims of violence, children. 15 years ago, JWI committed to build 100 brand new children's libraries in domestic violence shelters across the country, from soup to nuts. Hundreds of brand new books, shelving, furniture, rugs, rocking chairs, study carrels, computers, and printers. Our goal of 100 is taking us a little bit longer to reach, but thanks to many, including the Wagner Braunsberg Family Foundation and a number of you that are on today's call, we are closing in on our goal. JWI's partnerships with shelters have been invaluable, and I am so thrilled that our speakers today represent two wonderful programs as well as two of our newest children's libraries, Wings in Chicago, Illinois, and Hope Transitional, part of Jewish Family Services in LA. Both libraries will be dedicated on April 13th, and you'll hear more about that towards the end of today's conversation. But first, to today's important topics. How have domestic violence programs pivoted to address the COVID pandemic? And how have children and families living in shelters during our nation's lockdown been impacted? For the next half hour, I'll be asking questions of our speakers, and then we'll open it up to questions from participants. At the end, I'll turn the program over to JWI CEO Meredith Jacobs. So in the meantime, please put your questions in the question box, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Our two speakers have the firsthand experience of guiding programs, facilities, and families during this terribly precarious time. David Kahan is the Chief Operating Officer of Wings Program, Inc., joining the organization in 2017 after a long career in the private sector. His responsibilities include oversight of programs, community resources, resale operations, logistics, maintenance, and facility operations. His team oversees the safe houses, safe homes, community-based services, transitional housing, and resale stores. Alejandra Rodriguez is the shelter manager at Hope Transitional, one of the multiple sites that comprises Jewish Family Services. Hope is the domestic violence program of JFS LA. Ali, as she is known, has spent over 17 years in the social service field, using her personal and career experiences to help clients overcome obstacles. Along with concrete interventions, Ali provides clients and their children with emotional support and guidance so that they can live a life and create a home free of violence. Let's get started. David and Ali, I think it would be very helpful for our participants to know a little bit about your programs, size and the services that you provide, the length of stay for residents, essentially the brief but broad outlines of your program. Ali, do you want to start?
Sure, yes, thank you. Thank you, Lori. Yes, so I am the shelter manager for Hope Transitional through JFS, and Hope, as we call it, because we have actually 5 sites 2 counseling centers, 2 emergency shelters, and 1 transitional shelter. Usually we see about 600 clients a year within the 5 programs. And, you know, the transitional program is definitely a longer based program. The emergency shelters, usually the stay is between 30 to 45 days. And the transitional shelter is a 2-year program. But the clients usually stay between 6 to 9 months. By the 9 months, they're ready to go. They have money saved. They just want to start their new life. So that's a little bit about our program.
Great, thank you. David, tell us about Wings.
Lori, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be part of this presentation. And I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Wings program. And I've been around since 2017, but full disclosure, I've been part of the Wings family for many years prior. My mother was the board president, and that's where I fell in love with Wings many, many years ago as a donor and a volunteer. Wings provides a pathway to independence for adults and children who are escaping from domestic violence and abuse. And our focus is to provide tools and support necessary to ensure that survivors can escape their abusers and begin building new violence-free lives. We oversee safe homes, shared homes, and transitional housing in and around the Chicagoland area to help the cycle of violence. We're the largest domestic violence agency in terms of size and sheer beds in the state of Illinois. We have 2 safe homes with a capacity of 45 beds each, one in the city of Chicago and one in the suburbs. The length of stay in the safe homes can be up to 4 months. We own several shared homes throughout the Chicagoland area that provide 6 months of additional free shelter. And we also have several transitional living apartments and homes that provide up to 2 more years of transitional living. At any given time, we have over 250 women and children in housing. I always point out to folks that I speak with that half our clients are children. And that's very near and dear to our hearts that, you know, we're taking care of children as much as we're taking care of the moms. Our goal is to transition our clients to safe independence after their stay with Wings. We realize when we enter an emergency shelter and safe home, that's just the beginning. We also provide free community-based support, including counseling at local hospitals. We've been a leading advocate in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. And we're a rescuer. That's how we look at it. We provide a safe place for individuals and families in distress while our goal is to restore happiness and dignity.
Thank you both. And I'm really struck by what we have all become increasingly aware. Emergency housing does not end a woman's departure from her violent situation and immediately get her to the next phase of life. So I'm interested listening to both of you talk about the importance, how essential it is to have transitional housing after that period of emergency shelter, and that these are really the tools to rebuilding a life. And this really factors right into our next question, which is, you know, we really speak of the needs of survivors as holistic. That is, for every woman and family trying to escape a violent relationship, there is a large and diverse set of needs that help facilitate a successful recovery. Can you speak to some of the most urgent needs and how your program and the resources of the surrounding community and the surrounding local and state governments help with those programs and resources? And we'll start with David.
Thank you. I think that's so important. You know, the most urgent need at the beginning of the stay is safety, comfort, support, and shelter. And under the care of house advocates, child advocates, and family advocates, you know, families receive total support during this very courageous transition. you know, the decision to leave is very hard. Many times our guests will call our hotline, and the conversation that we have into our crisis center could be several calls. And the calls could last several minutes. Our families leave a very, very stressful situation, but it's a known stressful situation for an unknown to our safe homes. And our goal is to begin support and healing on day one of their stay. The most urgent need at the very beginning is starting with the basic needs. Many times I'll get a call from the safe house, and it could be any time. It could be a Saturday night, a Sunday morning, 5 o'clock during the week, that a mom and her children arrive at our safe home with just the clothes on their back. And if you think about that, at hour number one, we have to provide urgent needs to make sure that there are, items available for our new guest. And our agency, in particular, our resale stores, work very closely with the program to provide clothing, shoes, jackets, etc. I had one about 4 days ago. A mom and 2 kids came in with just the clothes on their back, and that is the urgent need. You want to start with just providing a very comfortable transition because it's just such a new situation. So the most urgent need is to get these items, and we get them from a large combination of donors, philanthropic organizations, religious organizations, clubs, retailers. At any given time, we oversee about 10 to 12 donation drives to help with the needs. And to be specific, food from the Greater Chicago Food Depository, Panera Bread, McDonald's, Starbucks, clothing from individual donors, but we also partner with Macy's, Van Shoes, Nordstrom, consignment companies. We need toiletries, accessories, furniture for a transitional guest, and then school supplies, winter jackets, holiday gifts. And, this is above and beyond just money. What we say is urgent needs at the beginning is just to provide the safety and comfort, and the help of the larger community makes that happen. And that's why we love working with organizations like yours, because you're helping us help our guests.
That's great. And it also speaks to how the community-wide value of contributing so much at such an important time. And it's always so great to see known companies and corporations jumping in on this at the local level. Allie, I'd love to turn to you to talk about this.
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned earlier, definitely our clients do not, the door does not close when they leave the emergency shelter. They come to Transitional Shelter to start, building the stepping stones where they need to, be successful, on their own and away from their batterer. So definitely our Hope Transitional provides safety, housing, counseling, case management. We definitely also, like David mentioned, we work and collaborate with companies and our local communities, such as Shelter Partnership that provides clothing, provides shoes, provides toiletries, hygiene supplies. We also have a good collaboration with Baby to Baby. A lot of our clients have small children, and sometimes it's difficult to buy, diapers and formula. So this Baby to Baby company provides that to all the families that are in need. It's not a limited, you only get a certain amount because, kids, when they're babies, they use a numerous amount of diapers. So we're very grateful that, Baby to Baby provides that for our clients. And, we also are in collaborative with School on Wheels. They also provide school supplies, backpacks, jackets, and they also provide tutors. Some of our, especially in these times with the whole virtual, a lot of kids are like they need one-on-one attention, and maybe the Zoom is not, providing that for them. So School on Wheels provides free tutoring where the tutor, comes and has that one-on-one with our children. So that's very exciting, and the kids love it, especially because they don't get to interact with other people besides their family. So definitely, we're very proud that we work with all these communities that provide all these services for adults and our children.
Yeah, it's great to hear the level of engagement of the community. And also, I think of two things. One is I think of JWI's own communities of the Young Women's Impact Network, which are, impact networks we have now in Chicago and in LA. And I can just imagine how these young women could become really part of that force of contributions, filling unmet needs, and of course the academic needs. I think I've spoken to both of you, and over the past year, we've pivoted to try to address some of the urgent technology needs that so many of our shelter partners and our library partners have needed, and that is a program that continues. So I feel like, I'm always reminded with our libraries and our partnerships, there's so much synergy. And, and in the meantime, the world has changed. It's hard to believe that we are marking the first anniversary into this pandemic. And its impact has clearly been life-changing for all of us. Domestic violence shelters have had to make such enormous changes and accommodations to both their physical plant and their program and services. Can you both share a bit about how your program and your staff have had to accommodate and actually recalibrate in the past year? And I guess the second part of the question is, because I always like to layer questions on top of questions, how have the needs of the women you serve changed during the pandemic? Anyone want to start?
Sure. And it's interesting because the last year, I feel like I can recall month by month like it was yesterday. I mean, something about 2020, I have a vivid memory of every single different phase through COVID. And it certainly has been a tremendous challenge. We do consider ourselves to be frontline workers. And, when this started, our number one priority was keeping guests and staff safe. And so we looked at it where in the past year, we were looking to create a very secure, safe environment. We've needed to be very flexible. Contact tracing was just starting, but we understood, especially in the city, in our safe house in the city was one of the highest percentage of COVID positive cases in the state of Illinois. So we had an additional challenge of making sure that our guests and staff were safe. And I will point out that particular safe house never closed down. Even though we had quarantining, I don't remember quarantining for one day. We were out 24/7, but in that particular safe house never closed down. And they did a tremendous job. The staff, they're just absolute frontline heroes. We've had to utilize more technology than ever before. And some of the newer challenges are just having ample supplies, and a lot of incredible donations came in through masks. We received masks, disinfectant, et cetera. I will say that, some of the creativity, like we were talking about the needed items, used to be, we have a needed items area in one of our suburban, there's a church that gives us space where we have all sorts of needed items, toiletries, accessories. Through the Amazon Cares program, the same donors, instead of coming and delivering needed items, they were shipping needed items. So I remember picking up just hundreds of boxes of needed items. So we were still getting them. So again, just being flexible and using creativity to get the items to the moms in the safe homes, shared homes, and transitional housing. And then one of the most commonly asked questions that I always get in all of the presentations is how has COVID impacted DV situations? And, and I'm sure that it's the same all over, but, domestic violence situations have absolutely increased. And we went through a phase where our call volume actually decreased because when you're quarantining, abusers are home more often. It's harder for the mom to break away to make that important call, harder for the mom and the kids to get away, to find a spot so they can enter our safe home. It's a very tense situation at home, and it's just harder to leave. But the good news is we've persevered. We have not had any type of outbreak in our safe homes. We've had some hotel stays that were paid through funders to help some social distancing, and we've made it. And we've also had mobile vaccinations at our safe homes. So I can tell you that with some of the challenges, a lot of real positive things.
It's great. In the face of so much that was so difficult and disillusioning, there is so much hope and so many people who really jumped in to help. Allie, tell us about your program.
Yes, definitely. Well, with Hope, actually not just Hope, the whole agency, JFS, and all the staff and all the programs, they immediately, our staff, we all immediately started following the CDC guidelines to just make sure that we were, making sure that we had not only the staff, but our clients safe. And we, I managed to just rolled our sleeves up and started tackling this. And we limited staff, so we limited staff. Usually, for example, my shelter, during the day, I usually have about 5 staff, and we had to limit that to 1 to 2 staff to just avoid any exposure. And when shifts will come and release, the morning shift or the night shift, we would do our shift change outside where it was more open to the air, and we're not enclosed in rooms. And then we also had to modify, obviously, the communication with the clients when it came to face-to-face. We started doing a lot of Zooms and meetings and just getting the clients comfortable with the new norm. And definitely the agency helped a lot when it came to providing the PPE supplies that were definitely needed for the shelter. So it's been a struggle, but it's been a really exciting journey where it comes to the staff and the clients coming together and almost protecting each other. We also started having COVID testing at all our sites, twice a month, just to make sure if we find something, we nip it in the butt. We did have one case of COVID at our shelter, but we were able, the staff, the clients were able to, follow the CDC guidelines. And, fortunately, that one family we were able to contain. It didn't spread to the rest of my 13 families. So I'm very, grateful and proud of my staff, that they stepped in and were able to contain it. And, it's difficult when it comes to, a case being presented in a shelter. There's communal areas, there's kids. You can't tell a kid you can't play with your roommate, or you can't play with your friend that you made, you've been friends for a year, you can't play with him right now. So, it's been a wonderful journey, but also we're excited that it's, soon to be ending.
Yeah, I bet this is worn tired at various junctures, but I'm also heartened to hear about the collaboration between staff and residents. I think that's really amazing. Well, you knew that our conversation was going to lead to the children that you serve. For JWI, that has always been a focus for us. It's really reaching the most underserved on an issue that has been so incredibly difficult to fund adequately, and for which I only can say there's no excuse for that. But I want to talk about the kids. What has it been like for the children who have had to move to virtual learning or some form of hybrid schooling? I mean, their whole lives are in a state of upheaval. What have been some of those challenges and how have you guys dealt with them? And really, what concerns do you have? This interests me a lot about the lasting impact of more than a year of academic disruption, compounding the trauma of the family violence that they are escaping. Would love to hear from both of you. David, do you want to start?
Sure, 100%. And real quick, I mean, listening to Ali speak, it's like I'm hearing our safe house manager in the suburbs in the city. You remind me of Iris and Carlene. You guys are heroes. And I love the work that the safe homes do. You're all related. Doesn't matter where you're at. It's really, I applaud you for what you do. As far as the kids, that's probably what drives me the most. I love the kids. In fact, behind me is a pit bull, and I have a pit bull who's very quiet upstairs. So I bring to the safe homes, and the kids love my dog. It's just, we have a lot of children. Like I said, half our clients are children, and we love hearing them run around in the safe home. But with that said, with the question, my daughter's a high school English as a second language teacher. And, and I know all about the issues with e-learning. And I think that certainly it has impacted us. And I'd say one of the issues in the safe home that we have, quite candidly, are internet issues with e-learning, keeping the internet going, especially when you have children that need to stay, it's hard enough for them. So the internet is always going to be an issue. I'm sure that's going to be a problem everywhere, but I'll get into some specifics. There's pros and cons. So what I will say is, when I talk to the child advocates, there are some pros, and some of the pros we're finding is kids at the shelter typically in the past would transfer to a new school. And many through e-learning now, when they come to the safe home, can stay at their own school. In fact, we had a child from Wisconsin who was able to stay in their own classroom. So the same schools, teachers, staff, there's continuity there. And some of those same kids experience bullying, and it's been good to be away from that environment. We're finding our kids are very tech savvy. Most of our children, I'm not saying all of them, but the advocates say a lot of them are younger elementary age. And so, there has been some positive things with the e-learning, but some of the cons that we find is that what we call IEP, individual educational programs, some of the needs are not being met through the IEP program. In other words, with lower income students and some of the students that we do get, IEPs are hard to maintain as it is, but there's a lot of emotional and behavioral concerns as it stands based on their experiences with trauma. It's hard to focus consistently with e-learning. Certainly the children need more, the children that we have need more structure. E-learning is not always easy to have structure. And then another area that we do have some concerns with is some of our guests, the moms, are not able to fully help kids with e-learning. Not all of them have the educational background, and they struggle with the process as well. And the in-class learning, what we do lose is some of the opportunities for teachers and social workers to give the children some additional support outside the classroom, especially with the kids that have trauma. And so that IEP is a real cornerstone of the education they get in the classroom. And so it definitely has been a challenge. I think that I don't know if I can speak to the long-term implications. I think that we're all learning about that. My daughter talks about it all the time. I'm just looking to be optimistic to say I'm looking forward as the vaccines are going up, that the kids get back in the classroom as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think we are achieving greater consensus on the importance of getting kids back in the classroom with their teachers, with their friends, and with the variety of programs that surround them at school. Allie, how are things out there?
Yes, it's been very, very especially difficult for the children. Like I said earlier, it's difficult to just explain to a child that you can't go to school anymore, or you can't see your friends in person, or you can't go and have a play date like you used to. So it's been very difficult for our kids. We see, our kids, in the beginning, they started, to get a little depressed and, get sad that they couldn't, bond and hang out with their friends. But as time, went by, they kind of, started adjusting to the virtual learning and to, having play dates, but virtually. So it's, for definitely for our kids, it's been a struggle, but I think with the support of our staff and the family, it's been a little easier for them, as like I said, as time goes by. Definitely the struggles that we had in the beginning was, making sure that all of our kids had Chromebooks. The school district, as the LA school district has many kids, and just from one day to another closing, and now we have to schedule some time to go pick up the Chromebooks or pick up the laptop so our kids can keep going to school. Was difficult, but we made it. We made sure that all of our kids had Chromebooks. I completely agree with David when he says internet. Even at home, internet is the struggle. But with our collaboration with our agency, just stepped up and upped our internet, put hotspots in every corner of the building. We have it's an old building. It's made, it's mostly brick, so the internet just stops in the first room. So it was a struggle, but thankfully a year later, the internet is definitely much better. All the kids are with their Chromes and online on time. So it's definitely a struggle, but we defeated it, and we're gonna keep supporting our kids because they are our future. So that's our kids.
It's I think finally, as we see the light at the end of the tunnel and we know our kids are going to be back in school, whatever, we have gotten so much better at meeting those unmet needs around connectivity, around more Chromebooks, around getting broadband everywhere, and boosters for internet in some of these old buildings. So I hate to say that what we have to do is make sure we hold on to that in case we're ever in this situation again, but it is instructive about what we have to make sure is in place. And God willing, we won't go through anything like this again. But this is kind of a happy moment in our conversation, because I am very excited. I hope you guys are as well, that in less than a month, we're going to be holding virtual openings for our newest children's libraries, one at Wings and the other at Transitional Hope, and actually a third in Tallahassee, where we have a library currently under construction. I wonder if you would each talk a bit prospectively. How will these libraries benefit your children and the families, as well as your program? And anyone can start.
Okay, so again, I want to thank you. I know we've worked long and hard, and the library supplies were being delivered in the last month and a half. And I was actually in the library on Friday, opening up boxes, taking a look at things, getting it ready. And we're so excited over what is happening. At the same time, we're building a brand new children's counseling center right next door. And the children advocates are so happy about it. In fact, the one thing I will tell you, the biggest benefit, I'll just skip to the answer real quick, is they opened the box of books. And Ashley, one of our child advocates, was blown away by the diversity of the books. She could not believe. And I said, well, there's 3 more you have to open up because I just delivered them Friday. And she can't wait to get into those books. And that is just so gigantic for our children. I cannot wait for a month. I'm almost wanting it to be sooner because our painter's coming in to paint and we're putting it together. It's going to be super outstanding. I know with the child advocates between the counseling room and the library, we know they're going to get great usage. We definitely know it'll benefit our program. Again, children we have a lot of children at that particular safe home, and they'll benefit the children in so many different ways that I cannot thank you enough. And I think that it's something I've always wanted to do, and to have something so new and these beautiful, diverse books right next to the counseling room in the city safe house is such a gift. I cannot say thanks enough. I will say one of the moms walked by the room and kind of saw what was going on. She started crying because she was so happy. You can't believe the impact it has on the guest even before the open. So we're going to get a lot of benefit for sure.
Well, that's really special to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Allie.
Yes. As David was mentioning some things, I'm nodding my head like, oh my God, that's happening to us too. I actually was at the shelter on Friday as well, putting some bookcases together.
There you go.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. But yes, to answer the question, the library is definitely definitely going to help our children and our parents. This is a time where they can have some bonding time with their kids. Sometimes, I have families that may have 4 kids, 5 kids, and, sometimes they need that that 30 minutes with each kid, alone reading a book. And, that's very exciting to them. As time has gone by, we've explained to clients what's coming along. And like David said, we had a child actually pass by the room, and he's like so excited. His eyes are wide open, and he's like, can I help you guys put the books away? Are we going to be able to come in here? So it's very exciting because our kids, this is what they need. They need this place where they can. It's like their oasis. When they're in their room all day, they want to see new things. So definitely, the library is definitely gonna be very welcomed by each and every one, especially our children, and not only our children, our moms too. So, and then we have a lot right now. We have a lot of kids that love to read, and with the school program, they're only able to read from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., which are school hours. Thereafter, there's the app that they use to read is not available after 3:30. So this library is going to be open, and they can come in after school hours and enjoy and just get lost in these books. So it's very exciting. I'm so grateful for JWI that this is an opportunity where our clients are gonna feel that the normal is coming back, and like you said earlier, Lori, we're not gonna forget what happened or what's happening. Is this just gonna make us stronger? And with this little space that these little people, and I say little people because I have kids, and when I see these kids, I feel like like I want them to be happy. I want their minds to expand. So with this library, it's definitely going to open some doors and some imagination with these kids.
Yeah. I just love listening to what both of you are saying, and I know you both know that these libraries really were inspired by my own experience working in a shelter many years ago, when the only books that we had for kids were well loved, I will say that, had been read 100 times, written in 100 times, pages torn out 50 times. And so what we really felt when we were creating the National Library Initiative was to create something that made every child feel valued. That every book was brand new, the furniture was new, the rooms came together in a way that created, Ali, I think you said it, a place of safety, a safe harbor for these children to read and be read to, which in a traumatic family environment, we forget. Books are often the last thing that children either have access to or are actually read to, because you have to have quiet and stability in a family life for the beauty and the serenity of reading to take place. So I am so excited, and I'm just so thrilled as I watch, these libraries develop and the incredible purpose they serve, and we encourage kids to take books home. We do have a couple of questions, and I'll ask them quickly. The first question is, do these programs help all women and children or only to the Jewish community? So I think I'll answer that very quickly. These shelters are not in the, they are not in the Jewish community. They don't serve Jewish women. They serve all women. Primarily, shelters are reflective of the communities in which they're located, and they are a final safety net when women either have exhausted family and friends as places to go, or when they no longer have other options. So I would say 99% of women living in shelters are not Jewish. And so I think that was a great question, always important to dispel the sense that JWI is only building shelters for Jewish women. So anything, oh, and one more question. In addition to academics, are there other activities that the children are able to engage in living in the shelter?
That's a great question.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was going to point out the house advocates are just incredible heroes, and there's activities all the time. You name it, whether it's a holiday, Black History Month, there's always something going on. Valentine's Day, I will say this, that one of our graduates who's now a mentor, every Valentine's Day for the past 15 years brings roses to all the moms, and then another donor has teddy bears for all the kids. That's a mainstay of the Safe Home. These house advocates have parties, activities constantly. I think that's a big part of the foundational healing that goes on in the Safe Home. Seems like all we do is party, and that's great because you want that.
Yeah.
It's great for the kids. So we encourage that activity. COVID has certainly streamlined it, but I can tell you that when I hear about these parties and they talk about it, just the staff, their eyes just light up. It's incredible the amount of activities that happen above and beyond the educational part. It's just incredible.
That's great. Oh, wow.
Yes. No, I definitely have to agree with David. The staff, our staff is just wonderful. We definitely have children activities all the time. For example, we have an art class. It's called A Window Between Worlds, and it's a domestic violence art class that helps children cope and be able to heal through art. So our kids love it. We usually have it 1 to 2 times a week. And we also have cooking class. So from making, cookies to making Rice Krispies, we definitely take advantage and just teach our kids some healthy eating and healthy recipes.
That's great. Really important. Michelle Obama would be really happy to hear about that program. I want to circle back to something, to the question that was asked about Jewish residents, and specifically, I think that question was related to the JFS program and shelter, and the answer would be the same as to the shelters across the country. There are a number of Jewish family service related domestic violence programs. They serve the whole community, not necessarily Jewish women. So did I say that correctly, Allie?
Yes, you definitely did. Thank you. Yes. Hope is what it is. Hope is for everyone. It's not, you're not limited, due to the color of your skin or the gender, or it's not limited to anything. So definitely, Hope is open to everybody.
Great. So I have one last question before I turn this over to Meredith. How does a person become active in a safe house in their immediate location? Like, what kinds of volunteer opportunities might be available?
That's a great question, and I'll be brief. So we have a manager of volunteer services that is, I think, is one of the most important employees we have in our organization, because with 47 properties, we have so many volunteer needs. The volunteer work is, above and beyond just the safe home, but we have maintenance folks that work on fixing things in the transitional homes. We have large groups of volunteers that they do donation drives. They come to our logistics center and sort the thousands of bags of clothing that we received. In fact, we had, I think, 10 in this past weekend, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. In the safe home, you have tremendous volunteers that have to go through the 40 hours of domestic violence training. They have to, get certified. Some of my favorite volunteers help with the children. In fact, one of my favorites, she actually donated money for flooring because she's on the floor with the kids, and she goes, I need a new floor in the kids' playroom. And, so the volunteers help with the children, help with the front desk, help the house advocates. They're our lifeblood in everything we do. We have thousands of hours of volunteer services, even in our resale stores. The thing I will say real quick is that what we like is volunteers not just give their time, but they're our greatest advocates. They're the ones that will raise advocacy awareness. They promote us. They don't just donate, but their time, but they donate their hearts and souls. And most of our volunteers have been with us for years. My favorite is 93 years old. Her name's Helen. She's taken a year off, but she comes to our resale store and sorts donations. And she was Volunteer of the Year in the Schaumburg, the suburb of Schaumburg a couple of years ago. And we love her to death, but that's just the makeup of who we have.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other questions that we're going to answer actually offline. But I thank everyone for their wonderful questions. We had a flurry of them at the end, which has been so great. And David and Allie, I want to thank you both so much for sharing your day with us. Allie, you're actually sharing your early morning with us out in LA. And more importantly, really for sharing your experience and your expertise. You've given us a glimpse of what life has really looked like in your programs for the last year. Thank you so much. And we are really looking forward to continuing this conversation with you both on April 13th, when we hold our first ever virtual dedications of your two libraries. And to the other questions that were asked, we are going to follow up with you after our call. But now I would like to turn the program over to JWI's terrific CEO, Meredith Jacobs. Meredith, take it away.
Lori, thank you so much. Allie, David, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your work with us, but even more importantly, for the work that you and your staff do every day. It's hard enough during normal times. What you have all done during these extraordinary times is inspirational. And I thank you. I thank you to Hope and to Wings. And I was thinking about how beautiful it is that your shelters are named Hope and Wings, because that's what you give to the women and children who come to you. You give them hope and you give them wings. And that makes me think of what Lori was inspired to do when she had the idea so many years ago to build children's libraries, and how important they would be, not only to provide, Allie, as you were saying, that space that the mothers can go and just sit in a rocking chair and read to a child. And David, when you shared what it's like when the mothers and children arrive at your door with nothing but the clothes on their backs, and the reaction when they walked by the library is just starting to be put together with excitement. And I am so proud that JWI can be a part of giving this back. And I thank Lori for bringing this project to our work. For all of you listening out there, you get our emails all the time asking you to support our libraries through our National Library Initiative. This summer, when we saw what was happening with COVID, we knew we had to respond by raising funds to send laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots to our shelter libraries. So I encourage you, please, to join us in this work and continue to give to the NLI. But in addition, at the end of this month, we're going to launch our Mother's Day Flower Project. And David, you were talking about the volunteer who brings roses. I know this was something I always think about when I started at JWI. Lori said, the women at the shelters have not received flowers given with love. And that really, that to me showed the importance of how our flower project, how when everyone gets to create a gift that supports not only their mothers, but all the women in their lives who make a difference, that we're sending flowers with love to the women and letting them know that they're remembered, that they're supported, that there are people outside who are rooting for them. We also provide craft kits and cards to the children so that they can make Mother's Day special for their mothers. And additionally, just like Allie was saying, when the women save up money and can move on, we're about providing that sustainable safety and providing resources created specifically for the women in the shelters so that they can have financial education, not only for themselves, but we're also building new resources so that they can teach their children, and that we can make sure that they rebuild their lives and then sustain lives that are filled with safety and with love. So I thank all of you for giving us this hour today. I hope you continue to be a part of our work and to help us do more. And I look forward to seeing you at those virtual library openings. I can't wait to celebrate with everyone. So thank you all.